Hey everyone, from a hotel room in Osaka. It's your friendly neighborhood Dennis Chang. I think every neighborhood has one of those. And today's video I didn't plan on making. It's actually something that happened the day I posted my previous video, the one from last week, which you should watch because it's a continuation of that. Two things happened. When I uploaded that video in my related video feed on YouTube, I came across a video of a guitar player named Anton Oparin. And I'm going to link everything in the description box or in the pinned comment, whichever. Now this guy is someone that I became aware of a long time ago when he first came on the scene. He had this viral video. He was 11 years old, I think, and he was playing some of the most technical stuff on the guitar as if it were just like a piece of cake. And now he's an adult, and guess what? He's even better. It's insane. Like, this guy is a genius technician. I've rarely seen anyone play such complicated lines on the guitar with such accuracy, like extreme precision, good tone, dynamic control, everything. So it's insane. He's not a jazz guitar player. He's like he's a shredder. I talked about that last week. Shredders who kind of like train to be technicians, like they practice really hard. That's their goal. And what I said last week is that I'm not a shredder in that sense. I'm not a technician, and neither are most jazz guitar players who are considered to have quote unquote good technique. I think like people like George Benson, myself, not that I'm putting myself in that category of like godhood, but a lot of us jazz players who are able to play fast, learn to play fast naturally. That was the purpose of last week's video, so I'm not going to repeat what I said last week. You'll have to watch it. As opposed to people who train specifically to have super good technique, such as Anton Oparin. And what's also very cool that he had this video that he posted in my related feed where he's actually talking about this slanted thing that I talked about in my last week's video. So that was very cool to watch. And he goes into, so not only is he an amazing player, but apparently he's an amazing teacher as well. Like, he's really studying the science behind the mechanics of guitar play. So if I really suggest that you watch it, even if you're not into shred guitar or anything. And then from that video, there was another related video of his. It's a 2-hour long video where he talks about quote unquote universal technique, the best technique to adopt as far as the right hand is concerned. And so it's a 2-hour video, and it's a little bit of a controversial video because he starts to rate some of the most famous players' technique, and he kind of like takes them down a little bit. And some people were pissed off at that. But emotions aside, you know, that video was technical, academic in nature. So when you're going to make something like that, you have to kind of speak truthfully, and as long as you can back things up, it's fine. And I don't think he took down those famous players as a sign of disrespect. I think he comes across as a nice guy, but it's for the sake of his quote unquote academic project. He basically takes down the technique of the most famous players like Guthrie Govan and some players that I've never even heard of, but like Yngwie Malmsteen, Paul Gilbert, Michelangelo Badio, like really famous shredders. And he basically has different categories like dynamics, speed, extra string noise, muting, everything. So he assigns plus and minus, plus and minus. No one has pluses across the category. The best rated players would be I think it was like Yngwie Malmsteen, Paul Gilbert, and Rick Graham. But the only person who has pluses across all fields was he himself, Anton Oparin. And he demonstrates everything. And if you watch that 2-hour long video, it kind of makes sense. I'm not going to disagree with him. Everything that he says is very reasonable. And he can prove it. He plays, when he demonstrates everything that he says, this guy is one of the best technicians on the planet. No contest. And in his videos, he says something that I really like. Is that, you know, there's in modern education, there is a lot of conventional wisdom that is being repeated by every generation. And what I like about this latest generation of teachers, not all the teachers, but there are some teachers out there who are kind of like challenging this conventional wisdom, myself included, Anton Oparin included, and a few others. Not many of us, but there's still a community out there. And he posted this Russian experiment where you have these kids and they have like objects on a table, and they're all white except for one object which is black. And the kids have to tell the people which color is that black object. And in that group of kids, all of them are actors. They're actors who are instructed to say that the black object is white. Only one of the kids is not an actor. So when all the kids say that the white object is, the black object is white, or whichever color it was, the one real kid felt the pressure in her, and so she said that the black object was white as well. This is the conventional wisdom thing happening. Now, before we get started, please like, please subscribe, please leave a comment. You know, I just got a letter last week from the US government saying that I have to pay 30% of all my YouTube earnings to the US government. That's how it is, man. I pay money to the Japanese government, the Taiwanese government, the Canadian government, the US government. It's a really difficult year for me. It's like all these tax things, and I have to pay my accountants and everything. I don't have a lot of money, and this is one of my sources of income. I work for the governments. I just give them money. That's what I do. I'm just trying to survive. So if you can like subscribe, watch my videos, share them, it makes such a huge difference. If you want to support me, you can get something on SoundSlice or on DC Music School. You find the links in the description box. I have a Gypsy Jazz picking book on Amazon. Again, you find all the links in the relevant sections. Okay, so this conventional wisdom thing. Another thing happened last week when I uploaded my video. On Instagram, I came upon, by chance, a video that's going viral. And it's like a technique exercise. It's going viral, and you see the comment section, it's divided in two. There's a group of people saying, well, this is completely useless. And then another group saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a real guitar player. This is very useful. My personal opinion is I think it's useless. I think it's one of those conventional wisdom things. And I'm going to show it to you right now. And actually, I think it's completely useless, but I'm open-minded. I would appreciate if anyone wanted to have disagreed with me, please offer your reasons. I'm gonna offer my reasons. So here's the exercise in question. It goes like this. And I can't really do it, so I'm gonna have to do it really slowly. Okay, it's easy. Now, once you reach here, you leave your fingers on the strings. One finger assigned to a fret. And you adopt the classical position, because it's the only way to do it. You can't really, let's see. Oh yeah, you can kind of adopt the position I talked about last week. But anyway, it feels better like this. Now, leave these fingers on. Now do this. Whatever you do, don't lift these fingers. Don't do this. Keep these on the assigned frets and the string. Okay, this is not so bad. And then, now, leave the index finger and the pinky finger on the string. That's starting to get a bit challenging. And then, same thing. This is very hard. And then, I made a mistake. See, I should not have lifted this finger. One more, I think this one. Oh my goodness. And you're supposed to do this without interruption whatsoever. It's like continuous stream of eighth notes or 16th, whatever you want. Insane. Now, not only do I think this is completely useless, I also think it's potentially dangerous if you over practice, because it's so unnatural and it's putting tremendous strain on the weak fingers. And so the people who are against it use this as the reason why it's useless. The pro exercise camp. They're saying, oh, you don't know this, like to help you achieve better technique and play like a guitar like a king or queen, whatever. Now here's the thing. If you guys have watched many of my previous videos, I always play in the beginning. I think I can say that I have pretty good technique, natural technique. I can play fast. I can play anything that I want to play because I've practiced for it. I've only practiced things that I'm going to use. And if there's something that I cannot play because of a technical reason, like a particular phrase, then I'll practice for it and then I'll be able to play it. So I always practice things with a specific purpose, with a specific goal. I acquire things as I need them. So for example, last week I talked about this little thing that's very, very challenging for me. Now, and it's still challenging for me. If I wanted to get faster, you know what I would do? Instead of practicing this, I don't see how this is going to help me do this. If I want to be able to do this, I'm just going to practice this. I'm going to practice this every day. Spend several hours every day just doing. How does it go? I don't remember how my phrase goes, but yeah. It's, for me, the difficulty of this phrase is not the speed, it's the endurance, it's the stamina. That's also one of Anton Oparin's criteria. I need to build the endurance, so I'd have to practice every day just and going fast just to build the stamina. That's what I would do. And this exercise, I just can't see. Okay, I can maybe see that if you practice carefully and you practice it well, yeah, maybe you will have quote unquote stronger fingers. But so what? You spend so much time practicing this when you could be practicing something that you're going to actually use. And so here's that same exercise if I did it quote unquote intelligently. See? Okay, I will use the pinky here. Why would I need to leave my fingers on the strings if I could just lift them and use the stronger fingers, right? And notice how fast and effortlessly I can play everything if I just do things the intelligent way. Basically, to sum things up, all my technical etudes came from excerpts. I made etudes out of things that I wanted to play. I remember when I was learning Gypsy jazz, the technique, there was one thing I wanted to play, it was this. By the way, again, this hotel room, the walls are very thin. I can hear my neighbors. They were doing some really funky stuff last night. I bet they had fun. But it's early in the morning, so I can't play too loud. But I want to play this early on in my Gypsy jazz life. This was very, very, very hard for me in those days. So I spent hours every day in front of the mirror, making sure that my movement was correct and everything, and just... It's so hard to play quietly. If I could play at the volume I would have better accuracy. So yeah, everything I did was always with purpose. So that's the point I wanted to make. And if you disagree with me about this exercise, please just let me know your reasons why. Because as I said, I've never practiced any of these purely technical exercises, and I'm proof that you can still have good technique without ever having practiced those quote-unquote useless exercises. Now we're going to move on to Anton Oparin, the things that he said. Everything he says is correct, but there are certain things that I have to talk about. Because in his comments, people were asking him about jazz guitar players, and he said, yeah, this also plays the jazz guitar. Well, here I am, an actual jazz guitar player, and I'm going to provide some context to this because the context is important. Anton Oparin I don't think he has any interest in jazz, and I think he's made little jokes like saying that jazz sucks or something like that, which is fine. I don't care whether he believes it or not, if it's a joke, I don't really care. Everyone has the right to their opinion. But here, as a real jazz musician, I have to weigh in. Now, Anton Oparin has a guitar school where he's showing the secrets to the universal technique that will allow you to play everything. Now, if I were a shredder and I were training to play a lot of things that he is able to play, I think I would sign up to a school, definitely. It's a bit expensive, but I think it's worthy investment. The guy really knows what he's doing, and there's some videos of his students with a lot of amazing results. This guy has something. So what I'm gonna say here is not to contradict anything that he says, but to provide context and the perspective of a jazz musician. So his whole thing is about developing a right hand technique that allows you to play everything. But this is where it gets complicated, because his video is academic in nature. So this video too is a little bit academic in nature. Being able to play everything, but can you play everything with the sound that you are looking for? For example, Gypsy jazz, the technique that we use, which has been in existence for centuries, if not millennia, versus the technique that he proposes, which is a variation of the modern technique where you just anchor your wrist, your palm here. This technique has been in existence for only about 50-60 years versus a technique that's been in existence for centuries. And this modern technique is definitely optimized for efficiency, for electric guitar playing, and for being very versatile. Whereas the centuries-old technique is not versatile. It's not meant to be used to play like any quote-unquote anything, but it's used to have a powerful sound in days when amplification simply did not exist. And I'm not going to demonstrate here because it'd be too loud, but I've talked about it in previous videos. This so-called Gypsy jazz technique has a specific sound to it that you just cannot get with any other technique. And I can always tell when I hear, there's an album by Berea Legrand called Move where he's using this technique, but sometimes you can hear the sound changes because he's switching to the modern technique. It's something that if you're used to hearing, you can hear right away, for the most part. And it's also a floating hand technique, which is something that Anton Oparin says is a big no-no, because muting is very important. Whereas in this Gypsy jazz technique, this old technique, muting is a factor, but generally you want the other strings to resonate, to provide some kind of like reinforce the harmonic, to reinforce, I guess, the tone of the notes that you're playing. It's like a natural reverb. You hear that? This is very desirable with this technique. Sometimes, okay, the notes are resonating too much, so, and then when you have to mute, you just do this or this. So there is muting in this technique, but generally you want the notes to ring. And again, this phrase that I showed you earlier, which I cannot play loud because, and it makes it really hard to play softly. I cannot imagine getting the same sound with any other technique, like the Anton Oparin technique. First of all, because if you're planting here, you've killed the resonance. And if you use sweep picking, it's just completely different sound. It's so hard to play accurate, like with great accuracy when I have to limit the strength on my right hand. Okay, but yeah, this whole Gypsy jazz technique is not about being able to play anything, but it's about being able to play certain phrases in a certain way with a certain sound. Maybe Anton Oparin could play something like this. But will he get the same sound with his technique? And I could actually probably play this faster, but it's, again, because I have to limit my right hand, I don't know if I can. It's really hard. So as I said last week, I'm a natural player. I play things that are very comfortable, like cells, melodic. Whether I play Gypsy jazz or bebop, I always play things that are very, very convenient, idiomatic to the guitar. But there are certain phrases that I have to play that are often part of compositions that are not natural. For example, this Django Reinhardt phrase is very, very natural to be able to play this fast, because the fingering and the right hand, the combination of the left hand fingerings and the right hand is very, very awkward. All these consecutive downstrokes that are kind of unnatural. I talk about how to use the gypsy jazz picking with natural left hand fingerings in my book, so you should check it out. But the thing is, if I had to play it not too fast in a medium tempo, then it's no problem. This tempo, no problem. And if you check out Django's recordings, he never really played it fast either. So it's tempo dependent. Now, if you're asking me to play it fast, I'm gonna run into problem. I'll probably have to find another fingering. And this fingering works really well for fast tempo. Just by rearranging the fingerings here, I can arrange the notes in such a way that it's easy on the right hand. So those are some things that you kind of have to do for gypsy jazz picking if you want to play it really, really fast. It's not a technique that you use to play something like Paganini's, what's it called, perpetual movement. But I can see that if I want to play that perpetual movement at a pretty fast speed, I would have to adopt this modern technique and probably sign up to Anton Oparin school just to get better at this string crossing thing. But impossible to play with the so-called traditional gypsy jazz technique. Impossible. I can't even, to play it fast. And I use this example because actually Stokolo Rosenberg and Moses Rosenberg do play it on one of their albums. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Ready and Able. They play it not too fast, but guess what? They completely change it so that it's easy to play. They're not playing the exact notes. They're cutting some notes and they're putting some little breaks there. So we have to cheat if you want to play something like that and you want to play a gypsy jazz style. One thing about my video last week, and I didn't want to name any names, but I specifically said one thing. Find me a jazz guitar player that can play with high accuracy, high endurance, play a long succession of triplets or 16th notes at a high tempo, but that is not using the wrist. You're not going to really find anyone. If you do, just really please let me know. I think the phrase that I played last week was this. Yeah, that's a pretty long phrase. Find me a player, and again, very easy for me to do. It's 7 a.m. I just woke up, took a shower, my hair's a little bit wet, and I just grabbed the guitar. I can already automatically do this. It's very natural, that's why. Now find me a guitar player who can do this at the same speed, or if not faster, using only the arm. I don't think such a player really exists, and if they do exist, they're, again, the exception. Because I know some people some people start naming guitar players and everything, but they can't do that. I'm not here to bring anyone down, but it's like the laws of physics, you know. Most players, I'm going to name one player because he himself says so, is Roman. He says that because he's left-handed, the right hand technique was very difficult for him, and so he never really learned to use the wrist correctly. So you can see when he plays a lot of fast lines, a lot of it is with the arm, and sometimes he struggles, he stumbles. So that's an example of someone who has trouble playing fast. But the main argument, and this related to what Anton Oparin is saying, is that you should develop a technique that allows you to do everything. Well, do you need to be able to do everything? Roman, for example, is a high-class artist. I have only respect for someone like him in terms of his musicianship. Beautiful player. He knows that he has this weakness, so he prioritizes other things to make up for the lack of technique. And you know, he doesn't need to be able to shred. He can still play technical things, but he doesn't have to play this BS. The end was a little bit sloppy. But you see, without warming up. If I warmed up, then it would be really, really clean. And if I could play with the volume that I wanted to, it would be even cleaner. But I'm not gonna lie. BS, so what? You know, you can do this. being able to play fast and accurate is only one aspect of what being a musician is. So Anton Oparin in his academic video, he kind of took down like Guthrie Govan. And again, he's not doing it in terms as a sign of disrespect. It's an academic video. Some people took it the wrong way, you know. I saw some comments, like sarcastic comments. Oh, I guess technique is so bad that he got hired by like Hans Zimmer and he's losing sleep over all the gigs that he gets. So Anton Oparin's video is specifically about universal technique and the most efficient technique. And when he takes down Guthrie Govan's technique, it's from an academic point of view, it's valid. But that's only one aspect though of being a musician. As I just said, Guthrie Govan has so much more than technique. And furthermore, we have to put things in context. Guthrie Govan comes from a generation where we didn't have access to YouTube and all the resources that we have now today, like Troy Grady, who's like also another expert at like analyzing technique. He's a natural player, a talented person who managed to develop really, really good technique despite having no reference or resources, very little anyway. And when Anton takes him down, all the points are very valid. But the truth is, even though Guthrie Govan's technique is not perfect like Anton's is, it's still really, really, really good. So good that the average person, or even someone like myself, who have really, really good ears, even if I can hear that the technique is not 100% perfect, I don't care, because that's just one little thing, you know. It's one thing if let's say you're playing this and you play this. Okay, that sounds like crap. But if it's like, yeah, I tried my best to emulate this kind of thing. It's not what I just did here. It's not 100% synchronized, but doesn't sound bad, right? As opposed to super synchronized. As jazz players, we're not trying to be able to play everything. As long as we can play what we need to play, we're happy. So it depends on your goals. Yeah, okay, if you want to play like really complex stuff that Anton wants to play, then yeah, you should definitely adopt this technique. But jazz guitar players, I've made a video about this in the past. We rarely go beyond 300 BPM. We rarely go beyond 350 BPM. And when we do play at 350 BPM, we're not necessarily playing constant stream of 8 notes. A constant stream of 8 notes at 340 BPM, what's that? That's like is that 116 notes at 170 BPM? Is that it? We rarely go that fast. We're playing phrases with pauses and everything. We're not doing anything like this. Not doing anything like that. Under Anton's list of criteria, I would get a little minus because there's some little extra noise in my playing. But again, I'm not a shredder. I didn't train to be a shredder. I think it's good that I offer this perspective because I think I'm one of the only people on this planet to have 3 techniques. I don't master, well, I think I've gotten really good at the Gypsy Jazz one. I'm pretty good at the George Benson one, and I'm not so bad at the modern technique either. So have these 3 different lives gives me this unique perspective to talk about this. With that said, everything that Anton says is very valid. It's very cool, and it's so amazing. Like I've rarely seen anyone play the things that he played with such accuracy. And with all this said, otherwise, Anton Oparin's point of view is very valid. It's very interesting. I learned a lot watching his videos, and if I wanted to play the stuff that he plays, then obviously I would adopt this thing. I would sign up for his music school and learn his secrets. By the way, one funny thing is that when that 2-hour takedown video of Anton, there's like for 2 hours, there's a Gypsy Jazz rhythm track going in the background. I don't know who's playing it, but it's quote unquote not the good Gypsy Jazz sound. Like it's played by someone who obviously doesn't know how to play Gypsy Jazz. I'm curious, I wonder if it's actually him trying to play that rhythm. See, despite having the quote unquote the technique to play everything, whoever played that gypsy jazz rhythm guitar doesn't know how to play gypsy jazz rhythm. So again, this universal technique that I constantly say, it doesn't exist. Everything has to be done with purpose. What is it that you're trying to play? Now, if you're trying to play gypsy jazz rhythm, then you'll have to learn the technique to be able to play the different styles of gypsy jazz rhythm that exist. It's not so difficult. But I see someone, I don't know if it's him playing it, but a guy like Anton couldn't play gypsy jazz rhythm unless he was taught how to achieve the sound. There we go. Let me know what you guys think. Cheers.